right, guys. So today we're gonna talk about classical versus modern homeopathy. So this is going back to the basics. In case some of my other videos might be too complicated for for people, too technical. So this is going to be going back to the basics, and I'm going to try to explain my position on homeopathy maybe more clearly than usual because yeah, maybe the way I explain things is sometimes you just can't follow it, right? I've some people told me that. So before we start, yeah, you can see that this channel has been renamed to homeopathic treatment online. This is because this channel serves two purposes. One of them is that, of course, I enjoy talking about homeopathy, and I am motivated to talk about homeopathy and raise awareness about correct homeopathy, raise awareness about health issues, um, raise awareness about all kinds of things, science, questions surrounding the issue of science and scientificness. I love that. I love doing it. I love doing it. Even though I don't get many views, I love it. But the other purpose of this channel from the beginning has been to basically market my services as a homeopath. So I am available for homeopathic consultations, which means that we do a video call and I recommend the remedy. And after that, I analyze you and then I recommend a remedy which will most likely induce positive health changes in you. Yeah, that is a service which I offer. And, the economy is getting worse really rapidly. So I honestly, I need some patience. So that's the reason I'm trying to emphasize this aspect of my channel. I'm not an e-beggar. I don't beg for money. I offer a service which is real, right? It's not nonsense. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into today's topic. Getting back to the basics, classical versus modern homeopathy, right? I wrote this, it's kind of an introduction to the topic. And so, if we want to make things simple to understand, maybe it's good to base this presentation on a very methodical approach to the topic, but in a simple way, right? Based on me writing about stuff. I know some people don't like to read, but guys, reading is like a very basic thing. So, yeah, this is how you acquire knowledge, by reading. So I'm sorry that we are just going to be reading a little bit. Okay, let's get into this. When you're looking to access homeopathic treatment online, being confronted with different factions of homeopathy might be confusing. In this post, I'll attempt to clarify the main differences between the camps. So that's the most important thing, right? Is to be aware that there are different factions in homeopathy and be aware of the differences between them. Let's talk about classical homeopathy first. Classical homeopathy means that a practitioner of homeopathy treats their patients according to the methodology devised by the founders of homeopathy, such as Samuel Hahnemann, James Tyler Kent, or John Henry Clarke. These people, of course, lived in the 17th, 18th, 19th, and early 20th centuries. Um, they wrote extensive literature, which we can read. And classical homeopathy means that we are practicing homeopathy the way that they did. Yeah, that's it. That's very simple. I think anybody can understand that. And let's continue. Modern or practical homeopathy means that the practitioner infuses this strict methodology with ideas or procedures not found in the works of the founders. These include detoxification, spiritual or New Age ideas, miasmatic prescribing, and a myriad of other techniques. Yeah. So for some reason, we don't know why. Probably it's because of marketing purposes or monetary gain. People in the late 20th century came up with, or just said that we should dilute homeopathy with all kinds of things which were not included in the literature in the corpus of the founders. Like spiritual New Age ideas, or detoxification or miasmatic prescribing, but there's many other examples. So the people I listed previously, they didn't use any of that stuff, right? So that's the difference. Classical homeopathy, modern homeopathy. Why is it then necessary, in my opinion, to stick to the classical form of homeopathy if you're a patient looking for an online homeopathy therapist? One of the most important aspects is that modern forms of homeopathy discard the scientific aspect of homeopathy, which I would argue is its biggest appeal. Do you want someone to treat you scientifically or non-scientifically? I think it's not hard to answer that question. Yeah, I don't think it's hard. I think anybody you ask would say that they want it to be treated scientifically. There's nobody that says, I want it to be treated non-scientifically, okay? So that's the biggest difference. Classical homeopathy is scientific. Modern homeopathy is non-scientific. And now, like, the question naturally arises as to why classical homeopathy is more scientific, right? It comes down to the basic methodology of the provings, which are the way remedies are discovered. Remedies have been and are tested on healthy patients and trigger a certain set of symptoms which are recorded under the remedy. Then we find the same set of symptoms in a sick person. We give that remedy. This methodology is an embodiment of the scientific method because it's empirical, repeatable, and we always give it's empirical because it's based on experimentation in reality. It's repeatable because we always give the same remedy for the same set of symptoms in the patient. So you might say that you want a scientific therapist to treat you, but you don't know what that means. Well, I'll tell you what that means. Science is empiricism and repeatability. Empiricism is being based on experimentation in reality. Repeatability is when you expect the same thing to happen again and again and again. So you have found a rule of nature, a law of nature, which is repeatable, right? Law of reality, maybe not nature, law of reality, or whatever you want to call it. That is science. That is the scientific method. Okay? And the classical approach is a perfect embodiment of that because, as I told you before, what is the basic procedure? We give the remedies to healthy people and it triggers certain symptoms, right? Like they get a headache and they feel cold or whatever, and they put that down under the remedy, and then we look for those symptoms in a sick person, right? If you find someone with a headache who feels cold, you give that same remedy. That means we have experimented in reality, and we always give that remedy for those set of symptoms. So modern homeopathy deviates from that methodology. Okay. I hope everyone is still with me. Modern homeopathy deviates from this methodology and said that other non-empirical and non-repeatable methods are acceptable when determining the correct remedy for a patient. For instance, detox homeopathy is not a scientific methodology. You are not prescribing on data based on experimentation, but on a vague idea that the patient needs detoxification or that most patients need detoxification. Right? So basically, detoxification homeopathy is very popular, right? It's extremely fashionable. If you do a search online and you try to look for a homeopath in Facebook or on the Google, immediately you're going to get all the detoxification homeopaths like Joette Calabrese, Christina Villacorta, whatever. And then they all advertise that you need detoxification, but there is no scientific basis for that. There is no experimentation in reality because they just say you need detoxification based on looking at you or whatever. There's no repeatability. When do we detox? When do we give detoxification? When it's your opinion that they need it, right? Do you understand? Can you actually, does it sink in, guys? Like when you lose that aspect of homeopathy that we are actually prescribing based on our previous experiments in reality, we go from there to this patient, everybody needs detoxification, so I'll give you this remedy. And this is when homeopathy becomes like Western chemical medicine, which we all know is bullshit. And because in Western chemical medicine, you give the same medicine to everybody. It's not scientific, right? We just have an idea that we need to reduce an inflammation and give this. That's not scientific. And we do the same thing. You have a vague idea that the patient needs detoxification, or you say that everybody needs detoxification, and you just give a remedy for that. That is not scientific at all. Or we can say that let's say it's much less scientific. There might be a certain amount of scientificness in that, but it's much less than when you are basing your prescriptions on your data recorded in your medicine experimentation. Of course, New Age methodologies are similarly unscientific. Prescribing on meditation, astrology, or spiritual things is not repeatable or empirical. I don't rule out the fact that there are some people who can shamanically analyze you or whatever, but that is not empirical. It's not scientific. So, yeah, obviously not, right? It's obviously not. I don't need to explain this one. Other non-scientific methods include giving multiple remedies and prescribing one or two symptoms. When multiple remedies are given, the matching of the patient's symptoms to the data recording in the remedy experiment starts to not make any sense. The reason why we have that process in the first place is to find the matching remedy in the first place. So be careful. A lot of homeopaths out there give multiple remedies and call it modern homeopathy, but that just basically takes away all the scientific nature of the process because we are matching remedies. Matching means you find one thing and match it to another thing, If you want to match something, there's no such thing as matching something to multiple things. Matching, by definition, it's the definition of the word, is one thing to another thing. So if you give 15 remedies at the same time, it's going to be vaguely similar to your data, and there's no strict process of matching. Also, when you give remedies based on too few symptoms, when giving a remedy based on one or two symptoms, the whole point of scientific patient analysis is again lost. If we prescribe in such a way, almost any remedy can be given from the list of known remedies. To give an example, if you have a headache, there are about 80 remedies that have a headache in their recorded remedy experiments. How do you know which one to give? Well, you don't. You're just guessing. It's like detoxification. I have this vague idea that you might need this remedy. I think that's enough for today. Thank you so much for listening and take care.